Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to episode 7 of Voice Over Histories. I'm Katie Aitken, and this is the docu-series that shines a light on the people, the projects, and the stories from the voiceover industry of days gone by. Today, we're exploring another voiceover icon whose work and life deserves to be remembered, admired, and celebrated. Let's go behind the mic with Kasem. Kasem's voice work is hugely recognisable, particularly in the areas of animation and radio. In animation, he's best remembered as the voice of Shaggy in Scooby Doo. And in the world of radio, he was known as King of the Countdowns, being the first host of the American Top 40.
Welcome to American Top 40. My name's Kasem.
He was born in Detroit in 1932 to Lebanese parents who had settled in Michigan and worked as greengrocers. Kasem was drawn to the world of radio early on in his life, while he was still at high school, in fact. This first taste of radio presenting, where he covered sports, led him to studying broadcasting at Wayne State University. In 1950, Kasem, aged 18, continued gaining experience in radio as he worked on the radio show The Lone Ranger, providing voices for characters over the course of a couple of years. This was his first experience of dipping his toes into the voice acting side of the business. In 1952, Kasem was drafted into the United States Army during the Korean War, and while stationed in South Korea, he worked as a DJ and announcer on the Armed Forces radio. Following his discharge from the Army 2 years later, Kasem returned to Detroit and began his professional career in broadcasting.
Tell me you went to a different kind of school, is that right?
No!
No, I understand that.
I listen to that and I say, why did they keep me? I think I know why, though. I worked hard, and what I lacked in talent, what I lacked in experience, I tried to make up for with hard work.
Kasem was working at KEWB, a radio station in Oakland, California. It was here that a tiny moment of fate would change the trajectory of his career, propelling him into radio superstardom. The story goes that the program director at the station told him to tone down his wild style and ditch his scripted comedy bits. Kasem, who always strove to be unique, was at a loss for what to do. Until he spotted a crumpled-up copy of the Who's Who in Music 1962 magazine. When he went on air, he took the magazine with him, reading out tidbits and teaser biographies about the music and the artists in between songs. Bear in mind that this came at a time when Beatlemania was blowing up and people were becoming more interested in artists. But not much was being written about them yet. It was a new kind of format, and it struck a chord with audiences. Ultimately, it was this that led to what Kasem is best known for in radio, the weekly radio show, American Top 40, with the first show debuting on July 4th, 1970. Of that little moment of fate, finding that magazine amongst the rubbish in 1962, Kasem would later reminisce, "I found my career in a trash can. God must have been looking over my shoulder that night, because that moment changed my whole life." But radio was not the only aspect of his career that was heading for stratospheric success. In the late 1960s, Kasem's voice acting career was also taking off in a big way. In 1968, his first major voiceover role was as Robin in the animated TV series The Adventures of Batman.
Here we go. A diamond-encrusted all-around athlete's belt, said to be worth $1 million, will be presented to the new champion tomorrow.
$1 million? That must be what the Penguin's after.
Undoubtedly. To the Batmobile.
The original show only had 17 episodes, coming to an end in 1969. Although Kasem and Olan Soule, the voiceover behind Batman, would later reprise their roles in later crossovers and projects, particularly the animated TV series Super Friends, which ran from 1973 to 1985. But in these early years, it didn't take long for more animation voice roles to come his way. Just 1 year later, in 1969, he voiced Dexter Carter in the short-lived but historically rather interesting animation Hot Wheels.
Well, here I am on, Dexter. What is it you wanted to tell me?
Artie, I'm in trouble.
You are?
Yes, my no-good drivers. I had to fire them all.
Fire them?
Incompetent brutes. Not one with enough spirit to handle my new wheels.
Also in 1969, he voiced Groovy in the Hanna Barbera cartoon Cattanooga Cats. Then, in the same year, he began voicing perhaps his most well-known and certainly longest-running character of them all, Norville Rogers, otherwise known as Shaggy in Scooby Doo, Where Are You? The cast of Scooby Doo includes a few other voiceover icons, including Don Messick, who was the voice of Scooby Doo, and Frank Welker, who was the voice of Fred. In fact, during the audition phase for Scooby Doo, Frank Welker and Casey Kasem initially wanted to audition for each other's characters. Welker felt that he had previously always been cast as the straight guy and wanted to try doing a comedic character. And Kasem felt that he wasn't a comedic actor and would be better suited for the role of Fred. But as with most things, it all worked out for the best in the end.
The way that I got the part for Freddie, I was doing a stand-up routine, and within this routine, I did like a dog and cat fight, a lot of, And this executive said, we're doing a show called Scooby Doo, and there's a dog, why don't you come in and audition for Scooby Doo? And I said, great. So I went over there and I got the script and I saw Shaggy. This is me. Funny character, and I'm always playing the straight guys. And so I sit down and meet Casey and he's just fantastic. I said, well, what part are you reading for? And he says, oh, I'm reading for Shaggy and I want to read for Freddie.
Character I wanted to do was Fred. And so they said, no, we'd like you to read the other character, Shaggy. I said, oh, okay, well, what is it you want? And he said, well, come up with something. And what I came up with was, Scoobo, buddy, old friend, old pal, it's me, your friend Shaggy.
Now that's cool, Unc.
They called me back 3 times, and the third time, apparently they saw what they liked, and so they hired me.
Well, gang, I guess that wraps up another mystery.
Throughout Kasem's life, in addition to his truly legendary pop culture-making work on the radio and voice acting credits, there was another deeply important aspect of his life that he referred to as the flip side. This was his philanthropic work and advocacy efforts. And these efforts were wide-ranging, including progressive causes such as advocating for affordable housing and the rights of the homeless, protesting US military involvement in the Middle East during the Gulf War, speaking out frequently for Palestinian rights, arranging conflict resolution workshops for Arab and Jewish Americans in both Los Angeles and Detroit, and penning a brochure himself entitled Arab Americans Making a Difference. His significance as a voiceover artist meant that he was able to make very clear, visible stands about certain issues by pulling out of productions he was attached to. Decade on decade, there are examples of Kasem doing this. In the 1970s, he was the original narrator for the comedy sitcom TV show Soap. However, the show contained controversial adult themes, with a supposed emphasis on sex and infidelity, which didn't sit well with Kasem, so he quit after the pilot. In the 1980s, Kasem voiced multiple characters in the animated series Transformers, including Teletran 1, Blue Streak and Cliffjumper. However, he abruptly left during season 3. He made this stand because of a particular episode entitled Thief in the Night, which contained what he felt were offensive caricatures of Arabs and Arabic countries. Although the episode takes place in a fictional place under a fictional dictatorship, the references were thinly veiled. Supposedly, the episode's fictional dictator was referring to the then Libyan ruler, Gaddafi. It was felt that the overall vibe of the episode could be construed as making fun out of those living under oppressive regimes. Later on in the 1990s, Kasem made his voice heard again about the issue of anti-Arab stereotyping around the release of the sequel to Aladdin, The Return of Jafar, when he called for a fairer balance between heroes and villains when it comes to the cultures they represent. Around the same time, in the mid-1990s, Casey Kasem stopped voicing Shaggy for a period of time. A significant period. 7 years, in fact. And it was a commercial voiceover and a burger that were at the heart of it. Around 1970, Kasem became a vegan and a passionate advocate for animal rights. This major lifestyle change happened around the recording of the second season of Scooby Doo, Where Are You? And Kasem was keen for his character, Shaggy, to be depicted as a vegetarian. Hanna Barbera initially agreed and promised that going forward, Shaggy would be a vegetarian. However, over the years, Shaggy got a little lax in his morals. Kasem let this slide, until, in 1995, he was asked to voice Shaggy for a Burger King advert, promoting Burger King Kids Club meals. This was a step too far for Kasem, and not only did he refuse to do the commercial, he also walked out on the show, stepping away from the character of Shaggy that he had been performing for 26 years. 7 years later, though, Kasem said that he would come back on the proviso that they stick to keeping Shaggy strictly vegetarian. The condition was agreed to, and Casey Kasem returned to the role in 2002 for What's New Scooby Doo. Scooby Doo Mystery Incorporated in 2010 was the final cartoon that Kasem voiced before retiring from voice acting at the age of 81. Sadly, in Casey Kasem's final years, he had Lewy body disease, a form of dementia with symptoms similar to Parkinson's, which left him unable to speak. The controversy of the discord in his family between his second wife and his children are what dominated the headlines. In his life, Kasem received numerous awards in recognition of his incredible work. For his work on the radio, he was inducted into the National Radio Hall of Fame and was in fact the youngest to ever have been inducted in 1992. For his activism, he received an array of awards, including the Martin Luther King Drum Major Award and Ellis Island Medal of Honor Award. And in 1997, he was the first to receive Billboard magazine's Lifetime Achievement Award. He also has his own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. His own voice, away from his celebrated character performances, was so recognized and associated with the medium of radio that he has voice credits playing himself as radio and DJ in animations such as Blue's Clues and Rugrats in Paris, proving that Casey Kasem is a deeply rooted part of pop culture. On his passing, it was written that generations of listeners who awakened to his pop music sermons have found themselves minus a formative educator. It seems that people couldn't praise the man highly enough, and his legacy offers inspiration by the shed load. If there is one piece of advice to take away from Casey Kasem, it has to be his iconic catchphrase and parting words.
Words I've ended my show with since 1970. Keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Voice Over Histories. If you enjoyed it, liking and subscribing massively helps, and it will make sure that you get notified of the next episode that comes out. Till then, bye-bye.